What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardawar.
I'm Managing Editor Sherlyn Lowe.
This week, we're joined by Senior Writer Sam Rutherford. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going? I have some
And
fun
podcast.
trivia. Did
Yes,
you know
fun
Yes.
that
trivia.
it is the 30th birthday of our parent company, Yahoo, this week?
Hooray. Let's, oh man, Yahoo turns 30. And
Oh
also,
my gosh.
podcast producer Ben Ellman is here. Hey, Ben.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, we are talking about the Pixel 9a, a phone which I feel like I was shocked it was not already out because there was so much talk about it and like so many details about it. I was like, how that thing came out already, right? No, but no, it was
Mhm.
announced this week. Google just announced it, even though it's not available until April. So there's some like, I don't know, some controversy there. We'll be diving into that and also some news, some sad news in the state of America, and also all sorts of stuff. But as always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes and drop us an email at podcast at Engadget. Yeah, leave us an email at podcast@engadget.com. Thanks. You can also join us Thursday mornings around 11 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel where we're streaming live, we're showing off gadgets, we're doing Q&As with the audience. It's a fun time. Join us. The Pixel 9a is here, and I'm sure some people are excited, but I feel like the main takeaway, guys, is that it is a $499 mid-range phone with all the features we want, and it's exactly what we were yelling at the iPhone 16e about, right, Sam, Sherlyn?
Yes, and critically, $100 less expensive than the iPhone
Yes.
16e.
Hmm.
And so this phone is not really a surprise. You kind of alluded to it before, but there were some reviewers in other countries who just got devices way
Hmm.
ahead of time, and
Yeah.
before the device was officially announced, they were just making reviews about it. So it seems like it's kind of out there, and it's Google's been doing this for a long time. Every spring they come out with the A series, kind of mid-range, more affordable take on the standard Pixel, and that's pretty much what we got again this year with the Pixel 9a. Now, there's a couple small differences. There's no camera bar, which is kind of like a signature design feature of the Pixel line.
Hmm.
It's almost flush, but you do get two cameras instead of one, like on the 16e, and
Mhm.
you still get a full tensor, not quite a full tensor G4 chip. It's got kind of reduced cores, but almost all the same capabilities. Nice, 120 hertz OLED display, and so it's really got basically everything you want from your standard Pixel 9, but for $300 less. And it just it seems like a pretty good deal.
Hmm. And more features than like the base iPhone 16. Honestly, I think in many ways, like they have the fast refresh rate screen, which we've been talking about forever. Sherlyn, thoughts on this one?
I mean, there's quite a lot of things, and Sam
Hmm.
already pointed out, right? So the difference between the 16e and the Pixel 9a, in addition to iOS versus Android, is that dual camera, which to me is a huge deal.
Hmm.
And Google has historically been better at processing photos too, so they'll look better anyway. And
Yep.
then secondly,
Google has actually
the
said that they think it's going to be the best
yeah.
camera quality on any phone under $500.
Hmm.
Yeah. Then there's the screen refresh rate. It's much better. It's like, you and I, Devendra, have talked ad nauseum
Yep.
about how much importance it is to have a faster refreshing screen than 60 hertz. Well, and then on top of everything else, Sam, this Pixel 9a has a 5100 milliamp hour battery. It's the biggest in the Pixel 9 lineup.
On any Pixel on sale
Yeah.
right now. Yep.
Really?
Which should be huge for battery life, and the 16e, I believe, for other reasons, including the C1 modem, as well as actually a bigger battery as well, is among one of the like longest lasting iPhones that Apple
Mhm.
rolled out this year as well. So the similarity there to me is like, are you paying less money for better battery life? And in that case, yay! Like, shall we keep, like I will spend less money and get better battery life.
Mhm.
Um, and Sam, I know this is your thing, like you're passionate about this wireless charging
Hmm.
as well as wired charging speeds. Can you tell us where the Pixel 9a stand
Yeah,
on that?
so I mean, at least unlike the iPhone 16, which doesn't have wireless charging at all, you do get 7.5 watt wireless charging, which is slow, but
I
not.
got a butt in
Yeah,
there.
it
I
has
believe the
Yes.
slow.
16e has wireless charging,
Oh,
but
does
slow,
it have wireless
7.5
charging?
watt. Yeah,
It
Okay.
7.5.
has the
No
really
MagSafe.
slow no
No
Mac. Yeah.
MagSafe,
Okay.
but 7.5 watts as well.
Hmm.
So
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 similar
it
enough.
sounds like they're about the same, at least in terms of wireless charging, 7.5 watts.
Yes.
And then you have 23-watt wired charging, which is okay, but still slower than what you get on a standard Pixel. And that's kind of one of Google's like kind of selling points to try to push people towards the Pixel. I'm
Right.
Hmm.
not sure that's going to work because if you don't have to charge the phone very often and you only charge it at night, does it really matter how fast the
Right.
wired is? That's one of those kind of hits you take for a mid-range phone, but shouldn't
Right.
be a big deal.
Right.
And its battery is bigger. Yeah.
It's weird that the battery's bigger. That's a whole thing.
I mean, it's
Um,
only a tiny, tiny bit bigger than the
Like
Pixel 9 Pro
100
XL, but
mAh. Yeah.
mhm.
technically the largest battery on any Pixel.
Looking at this phone, I still wonder like why is the iPhone 16e the way it is? And I guess that it's just Apple, right? It's the way Apple rolls. Like they're going to be more expensive than Android always. They're probably going to have fewer features.
Well,
You're paying the Apple tax, literally. Yeah.
Mhm.
I wonder if Tensor is a cheaper chip than the Apple silicon stuff is to make, maybe? Like, we
Could
all
be.
know one of the huge reasons the 16E is expensive compared to an
Hmm.
SE is the A18 that's
Mhm.
in there. One of many reasons. Um, you get poorer screen, you get only one camera. Like, I can't imagine what
Hmm.
else
Hmm.
is in there that's expensive. So I don't know. I don't know about the fabrication of these chips and whether there's that, or that, Google's taking more of a loss compared to, and they're not making losses, but they're, you know,
Hmm.
the
Well,
margin wise, they're taking a smaller margin, maybe. I
the
don't know.
tensor chip is nowhere near as powerful as like the Apple stuff, so that's
Right,
it's probably
right.
easier to produce and cheaper, like you're saying. But also that OLED screen, Apple also once again put an OLED in the iPhone 16e, and
Mm,
there's an OLED here too, right? So
Yes.
yes.
OLED has gotten cheaper, but I just feel like for the cheaper iPhone, I think people would have been fine with a very bright LCD and
Mhm.
some of the AI. So this one
Well,
has
let me
AI
ask you, would
features.
you
That's the key.
if you had to choose between OLED or an LCD with 120 hertz refresh rate and a 60 hertz OLED,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
becomes a
that's
lot more
rough.
interesting of a trade-off.
Yeah,
Mm,
for sure.
mhm.
You could get a higher refresh rate. But the key here, you guys keep bringing up the tensor chip. This one has it has, AI features. So that's pretty
Yeah.
useful too. And I guess the iPhone 16e has that, but I feel like that's also part of why you're paying a little more for it, I guess, right?
Although, I mean,
I
Apple
Hmm.
Intelligence people have, not been super enthused about that as of late. And so, at least in terms of just like each company's AI
Hmm.
portfolio, I think Google has the clear advantage here. I do want to make a note that, because of like the reduced core count on the Tensor G4 for the Pixel 9a, you don't get access to like a handful of features. Probably the biggest one is Pixel Screenshot app, but
Hmm.
this is, we're still trying to like get the full details on that because obviously we don't have devices in hand yet. The phone isn't on sale, so
There
keep tuned for when we do.
yeah.
Obviously we're gonna have a review coming for that.
There was a report that I think you guys were referring to that says that this thing is running a smaller, AI model, a smaller Gemini model than the other, phones.
Mhm.
Do we know that for sure yet? Because those do exist. Those smaller models are out there.
I
Yeah,
think you're referring to an Ars
Hmm.
Technica report, Devendra, which
Hmm.
that's what I was kind of thinking of as well when we were talking about these AI features
Hmm.
things. Sam, you were also in this conversation yesterday, I
yep.
remember, where 8 gigs of RAM seemed to be the problem, and or also the fewer cores in the Tensor G4. But you seem to pay more attention to the article than I did. Can you
Yeah, yeah.
clarify?
No, and so what what we've heard is that the phone has Gemini Nano, but
Hmm.
specifically on the Pixel 9a, it's a even kind of more streamlined version of Gemini Nano, so it doesn't have full access to everything, and so that kind of does limit some of the AI capabilities just a tiny bit. You still get like pixel recorder and all of like your basic like live transcription, translation stuff. So you know, for the most part, Google's AI suite is still mostly intact,
Hmm.
but that's one of the things we want to pay attention to, when we get a chance to review it, is just like, what are the true differences in terms of capabilities?
This is as all these companies are talking about their AI features, by the way, it is something worth keeping in mind because not every AI phone or AI PC is built the same. They have a wide variety of models that can be deployed across all these machines. So it seems like this one has one of the smallest Gemini models, and I don't know how can Google like really market that compared to like what the Pixel 9 itself can do. But it's something to keep in mind for like an informed buyer. You're just not going to get all the shiny AI stuff. Can you talk about the features it doesn't have, Sam, or at least that we think it doesn't have?
So I mean, mostly it's not compared to like the standard Pixel 9.
Hmm.
Slower charging, both wired and wireless, and then no Pixel Screenshot app, which is definitely a bummer because I think it that is actually one of the most useful AI features that Google has introduced as of late.
Hmm.
And obviously you don't get a telephoto. You have two cameras on the back, a 48 pixel main sensor, which is similar but not quite the same as the one on the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. and then you get a ultra wide 13 megapixel sensor, and then you do get support for a macro focus feature and super res zoom, but those are more software, not just physical optics for those two.
Hmm. Have to say, macro focus is something I did not think would be very useful on the iPhone and Android, but it's really helped me in certain situations. So it's a
Mm.
good thing to
It's
have.
How
it's
are
more
you
of a
using it?
situational thing unless you
Yeah.
really like taking pictures of close up flowers or bugs or stuff like that. I find it, we went through like a phase in smartphones
Hmm.
where a lot of companies were, hey, let's figure out a way to put two cameras on the back of the phone. And on budget phones, they would do main sensor and then an ultra wide with a macro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of those macros were just awful. They were just like really
Mm.
shallow depth of field, really hard to focus. So, I mean, it's nice that you get a little bit more capabilities, but I still find, as at least in terms of like main, zoom, ultra wide, that the ultra wide slash macro is usually the one that I use the least.
I use ultra wide a lot, but I have to point out,
Hmm.
Sam, you and I attended the Pixel briefing, and you did write a hands-on with the
Hmm.
Pixel 9a. The caveat here is that, like Sam already said, we don't have phones in hand. We don't have like not, we this thing is selling ostensibly in April. We think that's
Right.
what the company said. And then at the Pixel hands-on, what we could try or test out was limited. So I couldn't even tell you if this
Mm.
macro mode is necessarily as good as the Pixel 9 lineup
Right. We
or
weren't we weren't
right?
able to test out almost any of the features. We could, check out the physical design of the device and, flip around some, screens on the home screen. And that was about it. And it's really weird because it's like, you know, for historically, the Pixel 9a has launched at Google I/O, or at least like a
Hmm.
week before it, and now they're
Mm.
kind of jumping the gun. This is like almost 2 months before Google I/O, and so it seems, I don't know if it's like the rollout is like rushed or like not rushed in the way that it needs to be. I felt like they could have been a little bit more patient because what's the best thing about having an announcement and then you have pre-orders available that day? Apple's been
Mm,
very very good about this in the past. Like, you don't want to announce something and then make people wait just to be able to buy it. You should be able to have
mm,
pre-orders and then,
Hmm.
shipping a concrete date when you announce it. Like,
Is
why are
it
you going
mhm.
to announce something if you don't have a concrete shipping date, right?
isn't part of the story that there it was delayed? Like I think Google, from what I've read, there are component issues that it caused them to delay this phone even further. It was supposed to be released sooner. Have you guys heard about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the big issues between
Hmm.
component issues and then the whole tariff situation is like throwing every tech company device maker into a thing. And maybe there's some speculation that, hey, that's the reason why Apple made the 16e a little bit more expensive, is to kind of roll in those tariffs kind of preemptively.
Hmm.
Who knows? Yeah.
I
There.
I
Yeah.
will say that it's a little bit and I'm very being, like, much kinder than am in my head about
Uh
this.
huh.
Um, it is really annoying to see that there are people on YouTube or whatever with the device already posting their reviews, and we were limited as to what we could even touch at the
That
hands-on
is.
use. It is quite annoying because we're not we think very carefully about the devices that we write about, recommend to people and all because our credibility is very important to us.
Hmm.
And you will see the language in our hands-ons that we won't generally recommend anything we haven't tested for at least a few days in our own lives, in our own homes. So already we weren't going to like fully recommend something that we only saw at a
Hmm.
hands-on, but to be so limited and be like, "Yeah, yeah, this is a hands-on." We were very much, like, not certain about it. I will say the only difference is that we did touch it, we did hands-on it. This thing seems to actually work fine.
Sure.
But, like, then there's YouTubers out there with the whole ass thing that they
And
could,
they
like,
have all
use
the
and
features, and they have reviews
yeah,
with
so,
the
like,
feature. So
what's the there's not component issues, right? It's like something like
yeah.
this whole situation, the way it's played out, has led me to think that there's some serious issues with getting the Tensor G4 in the Pixel
Hmm.
9a to run these Gemini things properly. Or and to be clear, I haven't seen these videos on
Hmm.
YouTube, so I don't know what they've said. But I've always been like something's very suspicious. However, now I'm like, if they're in people's hands, they're not that
Yeah.
suspicious. They
So
seem ready to roll off the assembly line.
do we have like? Did you guys talk to Google PR about this, or their spokespeople about like why these limitations are here
AG?
when the review units are out there? Yeah.
Oh, about that. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't go ahead. I have like
Oh man.
other
Okay.
things.
So yeah, this is
Sam
like when Sam and I were at Dell. I love to be annoying to the PR people, especially when like these companies, we are there.
Oh,
Yes, we're there at their invitation to check out their new stuff, whatever. But if they're giving us garbage, like if you're just BSing me about something, it's like this is the point where we gotta like push back on them. So I don't know. I don't know if Google has said anything.
It's
It sucks though.
to be
Yeah,
clear, and Sam can I think agree on this. The hands-on happened before those videos came out, so we couldn't
sure,
push them
Mhm.
sure,
in person. Since then, when we push, it's been through like email or whatever.
gotcha.
And it's you know how hard it is to get responses via that channel, right?
So
Sam,
annoying.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't see
Yeah.
those videos when we went to the hands-on.
No, those
Okay.
videos came out after we got a chance to go hands on. But this has kind of like been an issue with Google for a long time, where
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know they have full devices that just straight up get leaked. I think this happened with the Pixel 7 or Pixel
Many
6. There,
others.
were- there was there
Yeah.
was there was like a bunch of people in Russia who just got full devices and were
Uh huh.
making full review videos. And Google Google's entire strategy kind of hinges upon some of this too, where like a lot of times they'll just announce the next version of Pixel 9. They'll show up like a full image of it like 2 months before the official date. Remember, like this happened last year. They
Mm-hmm.
showed off the Pixel 9 before the official launch day because they kind of, I think, know that it's going to get leaked, so they might as well get out ahead of the leaks. Um, so it's just like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of companies go, they spend a ton of time trying to combat leaks, and some companies try harder than others. So I don't know if this is something that Google needs to focus more on again, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess
I,
that's how it is.
I think in past years it almost seemed like some of the leaks were maybe even Google planned because
Yeah, Mike Jones Jr. in the chat, it's like
yeah,
totally unintentional, quote,
totally
indeed.
unintentional. Like I don't the people are not out there clamoring for like when is the next Pixel A series phone coming?
Hmm.
I don't know. Like sometimes you gotta like trump up your own like juice and buzz, I guess. Also, I kind of feel like they hit this out early because we don't know what the state of sales is like, but it could be that Google needs a new, cheaper phone, especially now that the iPhone 16e is out.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I think I could be wrong, but the
mhm,
Pixel sales have been growing steadily year over year, and the A was kind of a banner tentpole
mhm,
device for them.
And the
So I
9
think
lineup, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, I think at least the momentum is kind of in their favor, but who knows? Like, anything can derail and momentum.
I think if we continue to see this trend, because Google has been proven to be a bit reactive in its news announcement windows before, right? With Bard coming
Mhm,
out the day or week of Bing AI being announced, and like seemingly the day before, in reaction to rumors. This also seems like what to your speculation that it is a reaction to the iPhone 16e.
mhm.
I wonder if that's the reasoning. It wouldn't be past them because it seems to fit with their history. Kevin says in the chat is also like, oh yeah, but Google uses marketing teams that are from outside, for different regions, so it might not really be Google doing it. And like I to an extent, I think that's fair, but I hesitate. I
Yeah,
can't believe they have no repercussions from seeding a device way ahead of the rest of the North American at least team. So I don't
yeah.
know.
I don't think an external marketing team would do that. Otherwise, that's the last job you have from Google.
They
You
would
know,
no
this has
longer
to
have
be
Google as a client, yeah.
this has to be approved. But maybe they pitch it sort of like, "Hey, man, we got these Russian live streamers out here who could really, really generate some buzz for whatever
Could be
Pixel's coming next."
jurisdiction
Yeah,
of, like, nobody in certain countries cares about breaking certain rules, and therefore they just go ahead and do it maybe,
for
but
sure.
yeah. Well,
I
but
feel like
but
Google
that might be a bit inside baseball, I don't know,
for sure. That's a lot of talk about the Pixel 9a. Is there anything else you guys want to add about this thing? Because it's a mid-range phone. I think it's going to have a wide appeal, but also, come on, we have other news to move
Yeah.
on to.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
Yeah.
just in short, like I like the price, I like the design. I'm not upset about the camera bar going away.
Hmm.
And it kind of has everything you want in a $500 phone. Obviously, the specs aren't as impressive as like a Chinese phone, which always delivers like super high performance for the
Mm.
money.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, I'm really excited to think. The one question I have is like, at what point does the Pixel 9a kind of start to really encroach on the
Hmm.
standard Pixel 9's territory? Because you're getting so much of it for $300 less. I'm curious to see kind of how that plays out in terms of like positioning on future devices, but that's gotta wait and see.
I kind of feel
I
like
mhm.
go ahead, Sherlyn.
Oh, no, I just wanna say that, like, Sam is comparing the 9A to the 9, and
Hmm.
I wanna point out Simon says in the chat was like, "You should compare it to the OnePlus versions as well," and,
Yeah.
Ben was like, "Oh, yeah, we don't have the OnePlus here in the US," which is, I believe, correct? I can't remember. I don't think there's been a new OnePlus announced
Hmm.
recently, but what we should compare it to is something like the Nothing Phone 3A, which comes in at around the same price, the 3A Pro, I believe, or
Hmm.
Samsung announced last couple weeks ago at MWC, the Galaxy A56, which comes in exactly 499.
Mhm.
The problem with the A56 is that it's unclear whether it's going to be. We talked about this. The availability in the US seems a bit spotty, and it's going to be for sure available in the UK. So as usual, overseas regions, Europe, Asia, etc., have more access to mid-range phones from makers that are not just Apple and Google and Samsung.
Mhm.
But we don't know. Nothing Phone 3A Pro and 3A will be available through a beta sort of program in the US, but that does mean that the supply seems to be limited.
Yeah, very
Um,
few people will see that. Mhm.
yeah, exactly. So, but it looks nice. I just
Mhm.
wanted to bring up that, like, yeah, there's also other phones that would be worth considering in this price range. So, for the full details on what you should consider, definitely go to Engadget.com.
But they wouldn't have all of the Gemini features, right? They wouldn't have the tensor
Right,
chip
the AI
and
stuff
everything.
wouldn't be baked in the way in it is in Pixel.
That's kind of, yeah, the defining feature here. To what you were saying, Sam, it feels like for a lot of these companies, if you're not Apple, right, you have 6 months to really sell your high end new thing. And then after that, people may be looking for deals, so that's like, okay, you have a cheaper phone that more people would probably buy at a much lower price, coming in a little later. And I think that's the balance, like new thing and then slightly less good thing, but cheaper. They've probably made as many of the Pixel 9 sales as they could have, up until this point. Because now people are waiting for whatever the next thing is. It's March, right? So now you're like, okay, well, next Pixel phone coming soon, I guess, right? Um,
Soon.
soon. I don't know. It all feels like, listen, it is close to the end of March. I'm already thinking about things like Microsoft Build and whatever events are
Mhm,
happening in the middle of the year, and then like before you
mhm.
know it, it's iPhone time. Anyway, folks, yeah, stay tuned for our coverage of the Pixel 9a. We still need to get review units, and that'll all be coming soon. Thanks, Sam and Jerlyn, for this. Let's talk to chat for a little bit. How you
Can
guys
I
doing?
just
Mhm.
I know that there's some confusion slash like talk about what's happening in the chat as to whether there are bots. And can I just say I think it's just perhaps it's bots, but I think it's just people. Like
People are just
I am
trolling each
aware.
other now.
Yeah, I
People are just
just
rolling.
yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
sorry, I
need
have
to
not had
give
time to look at it.
attention
I
to
can I
things.
can start
It's fine.
blocking people.
But it's
It's
like the most
funny.
harmless troll. People are just saying
Yeah,
hello, just keep saying hello all the time. It's like,
Hello.
yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah, because one
Like
person was saying hello, hello.
it's about as easy. It's pretty easy for me to block people if I need to, but so far it hasn't been harmful, so I think it's fine, right? Like if y'all really are bothered by it, I'm
It's
more than
it's just
happy
the
to.
internet, man. It's just the internet.
Yeah, it's. Hey, I want
Hello.
to point out that people in the chat like D-Man and D-Pro9 are both like Nvidia's keynote, blah blah blah. We had a good live blog about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
We had a good,
this
if you want
week.
to see our thoughts on our coverage, go check out our GTC live blog. It is so like weirdly dense. Like it does not make a good podcast conversation unless we're talking to AI people. It's oh god. That was like
Can
two and
we
a half
spend
hours
like
of hell. Yeah.
1 second talking about the optical chip though? Like what is
Hmm.
going on there?
Which optical chip? The Ethernet one?
Uh I didn't know
There
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 was
are
more than
many things.
one.
There were many things, Ben. Many
The
things. And I
laser
sat here,
Ethernet one.
laser Ethernet, essentially with optical
I have no
fiber,
idea what
I
the
think.
optical. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
the
yeah,
point.
no,
That's
there
the
was
point
I
in the
thought there was
keynote.
yeah, I thought there was just one optical chip and that was
No, it
a
was
big
like
deal. No.
so Nvidia bought an Ethernet company a while back, and everyone's like, "Why do you buy an Ethernet company?" It's because Ethernet's a really good way to push data through servers, and that's what they're owning and optimizing. It's a whole thing, but that was the point in the GTC keynote where I was like, I'm just out of my depth here because this is like high end Ethernet for servers. So I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It seems faster, but yeah, lots
Yeah.
of cool Nvidia stuff. Jensen has so much energy because that thing ran for 2.5 hours and he just kept going. It's wild. Anyway, how's chat doing otherwise?
I'm just laughing at
Mhm.
Declan saying, "Deep bro, what year were you born? What's your mother's maiden name? Oh, and what was your first car? And by the way, what bank do you use?"
Someone
And
asked us
also
what
what
our
street was your
email
elementary
addresses.
school on?
What are email addresses? Sorry.
What is Engadget? See, it's podcastinggadget.com. You
Yeah,
can
that
send us
there you
email
go.
and send us questions.
But please
I see.
don't ask us security questions in that email.
I mean, you
Oh
can
We're
yeah.
not
ask. I
going to
will
get
not
anything.
answer correctly. Lucky Dog Podcast says they think they're turning into a bot. There you go.
Hmm. Hmm.
Engadget got popular. Sorry, I
I
just
don't
saw that.
know.
Fred
It's
McIntyre gives a good tip. Remember to smash that like, everybody. Thank
smash
you.
that like. I'm actually gonna. Somebody mentioned that the Fujifilm thing. We should talk about that briefly. I don't know, Sam, if you have
The
thoughts
GFX
about it.
100, yeah, it
Yeah.
was buzzy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so
Go on.
really quickly, it's kind of like a medium format sensor, but in a very
Yeah.
very small compact body,
We're
which
gonna get to, wait. We're
We'll
gonna
put
do
it
it
in
in
the
the
okay.
chat.
doc
Oh,
and
In the
insert
We're
chat.
the
actually
audio.
Save
we're
it for the
adding it.
cast.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So
So we're
I'll
doing
put
it
that
live.
into or like around or okay. No, we
I'm
could
just gonna
put
put
it
it
in
in
here.
here.
We'll put it
It's
other
news.
news. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
news.
Well,
It's fine.
it's news and it's
Um.
gadgety, so yeah, let's put it
Yes.
at the top of
And
other
people are
news.
freaking out about this thing. So can we hop
Yeah.
in since we're eager to talk about this?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Let's
So
do it.
thanks everybody in the chat.
We'll
Sorry
chat
that
more
we can't
later,
talk to
folks,
you
after all this.
constantly, but want to make sure that it's okay for the audio people. Let's get to this other segment.
Let's get to it. Okay. Let's move on to some other news. And actually, something that broke this morning that I saw a lot of people were excited about is Fujifilm's new GFX 100 RF, which is a 102 megapixel medium format compact camera. That is a lot of words. That also means
Mm.
like this is kind of a hell of a camera. It is almost $5,000. It's
I was gonna say, don't forget the
4,900.
price.
It's 49 because it's a medium format camera. That is like heavy duty pro level stuff. I am less of a camera guy. I just like looking at the specs and the pretty hardware. But Sam, Sherlin, do you guys have thoughts on this thing? It's weird. It's a fixed lens camera,
Mm.
28 millimeter lens, f4 lens.
And so
That
that's
is a
that's
little
where you
weird.
lost me, is that
Yeah.
fixed lens. If I'm gonna buy a $5,000 camera, I gotta be
Oh
able to
my
put
god.
some
I
different lenses
know.
on it. It's like an F4
Mhm.
is fine, but once
Mhm.
again, if you are spending that kind of dough on
Yeah.
a camera, especially on a fixed lens camera, you
Mm-mm.
got to give me like
Mm-mm.
F2, F2.8
Yes.
at least, just
Mhm.
so
Yes.
you have a little bit more control over depth of field and stuff like that. And so this is like the most Fujifilm camera of all time, because it's like, oh, this is like a lovely crafted, and you got the the traditional Fujifilm dials and all that, and
Mm.
it looks nice, and you have the black one and the two-tone silver and black one. It's like I'm sure there's a bunch of film pseudo film settings and stuff like that. And so it's great, but it's like, if you are actually want a practical camera that you can take around, that's awesome. This is sort of like the ultimate like almost
Yes.
rangefinder camera, where it's
Yes.
like you
Mm.
want the most overkill like thing for going around taking street photos in a city.
Yeah.
This is really cool, but to me this is like in Leica territory, where it's like very nice
Yeah.
to look
Yeah.
at, and I'm sure it's a joy to use, but I will never afford one, and so it's like hard
Yeah.
for me to get super excited about
We can covet it basically. So Steve Denton, who wrote up the story for us, says this is really competing with the $6,600 Leica Q3. So it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper than the
Wow.
Leica.
So competitive.
So competitive. That's quality right there. But also,
Oh my god.
people who love cameras and photographers, I know, like those folks drop $1,000, $2,000 on a camera like nothing. If they're actually in this as a hobby and they have a collection of cameras, they have all sorts of stuff. I could see this being a really useful thing for a lot of people. I'm just that the fact that it's fixed frame lens and also that f-stop is just not. It just seems a little too high for me. Yeah,
That is wild. It's
pretty
especially
camera.
for the money. Jeez.
Especially for the money. So that's your okay. We'll whet your appetite with gadgets, and then there were some other things we want to dive into. One of the big stories over the last week is Sarah Wynne Williams, the former Chase Facebook worker we talked about last week. Actually, is in the
Yep.
process of releasing a book called Careless People. The book is out, but Facebook last week. Her lawyer stopped her from promoting the book because of the NDA. We have some coverage on it. Carissa Bell has, I believe, just sped through and read the whole thing, and she has like carved out some highlights from us, including things like Mark Zuckerberg requested to be gently mobbed during a visit to Asia. I don't know what that
It
means,
was
but I
so
would love
funny
to
to
be.
me.
I would love to be gently mobbed. Just to step into the room and everybody praises you. It's awesome.
Oh,
He
funny.
refused to take meetings before noon, even with heads of state. Meta built a special room to protect him from Zika while he was visiting Peru for the APEC conference. And he was desperate to talk to Xi Jinping. A lot of things, a lot of cringe things. I've also
Wanted Xi
seen.
Jinping to name his kid that was known for a while, I think, right?
Yeah. Yes. It turns out like these folks just they're always just like bowing to more and more power, I guess. So it was not too surprising when Mark Zuckerberg was like, "Oh, Trump's in power now. I just gotta give it all up for him."
Hold up though. I need
Mhm.
to jump in about the Mark Zuckerberg Zika thing because
Yes.
Carissa says that this was part of something that Facebook people called Operation Perfect Sperm. I think he was afraid of like his sperm quality going down if he
Oh
were to get
man.
Zika. Okay. I
Okay.
don't know when this was happening. I don't know if he was on the way toward another kid. But Yeah, that's something that he cared a lot about.
I mean, listen, you're worth billions of dollars. You're one of the richest people on earth. You're like, I gotta care about my legacy. I gotta I gotta
Well,
make sure my
okay, yes,
genes are
but
all correct.
now he's
Yeah.
thinking of himself as a sire. That's weird, dude.
He's hanging out with Elon Musk a little too much, I guess. I don't know there. So anyway, we have a lot of coverage on this thing. This book seems wild. I'm looking forward to reading it. I have seen some pushback from people who used to work at Meta, who also worked with this person, who say like some things may be overblown. She didn't really like, maybe she is like basically milking a lot of these stories to sell a book, which sure, yes, that's also happening. But what's also funny is I think I directly worked with somebody, one of the people pushing back. And those were also one of the people's it was somebody who I had a really weird interaction with when it came to covering Meta and Facebook stuff. It was when they were releasing the Portal cameras. Remember those? Facebook
Hmm.
Facebook released cameras. And my
Uh,
direct question was, people don't really trust Facebook anymore. They don't really trust you as a company. What why do you think they'll trust you, putting cameras in their homes? And the reaction I got back from this person, who was like senior level marketing lady, who, yeah, I believe was one of these people. Um she was like, "Oh yeah, people are concerned. People have concerns about Meta." It was a really weird pushback thing, like a really snarky way of saying, "Oh yeah, people are concerned about the Facebook, and their privacy." Um, these people all exist in their own bubble, right? Like they're all
Very
smoking the Facebook
insulated. Yeah.
fumes. They're very insulated. They're all like they're close to Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know who to trust fully here, but the book sounds funny. It sounds like
I
something that's
think
worth reading. Yeah.
Just some
just
of
to
the
reframe
experts
it,
are just like incredible.
Mm-hmm.
the experts. Sorry.
The
Excerpts.
excerpts from the
Oh yeah,
book are
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
there's another
I
one
mean, look.
where
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
Joel Kaplan, who is their current chief of global affairs officer this year. Apparently, he used to work for the George W. Bush administration, and he
Mhm.
was quote surprised to learn that Taiwan is an island. And it's like, what else could it be?
I knew, and that's relevant to you, excerpt for sure too, Sam, with Taiwan and everything.
Definitely, Taiwan
Um,
is both an island and a country. So yeah.
Yeah.
the thing I wanted to point out is that like to reframe this for some of our listeners too, or at least just for us, right?
Mhm.
Um, it would be like I wrote a book about Engadget,
Mhm.
about some of the past history that has happened, and people who have
Uh-huh.
left us or like people who still
Wow.
work here are like, "Oh, but Sherlyn doesn't know
Sherlin's
what
got
she's talking
beef.
about."
Yeah.
Instead of saying like, "Oh, actually, yeah, that did happen and it's no longer like for me at least, like for
Mhm.
example,
Mhm.
oh, it's no longer the Engadget that I know today or I was not involved in this or whatever." Like just being accepting of that like some of the facts can be facts that we didn't know or like
Everybody has their own
that
perspective. Yeah.
happened. Exactly.
I definitely don't
Anyway,
trust the people rushing out to basically defend Mark Zuckerberg. That's what some
I
of those
agree.
people
I
felt
agree.
like.
I'm not gonna go
So,
out and defend
yeah.
like people I never knew. Also, just like people in an organization's history, maybe like
Mhm.
Yahoo's
Mhm.
top manager from like years ago. I don't know. What am I supposed to say?
Sherlin's not gonna
He's
go to
Um,
not
the mat
gonna
for
see.
Shingy, okay? She's not gonna defend Shingy and
I
all of his
once took an
actions.
elevator with Chingy. We said no words to
Remember
each other.
Shingy? Look up
No,
Shingy on
I'll
YouTube,
go to
folks.
bat for him. Dude has great hair.
He has great hair. He
He
rode
lives
that
in a
hair
nice
all the way
office.
to the executive suite, basically. So yeah, it's
He
great.
liked his office.
He liked his office. Yeah. We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
In less fun news, I guess less directly entertaining news. This week, Trump has fired the FTC's two Democratic
He has
commissioners.
attempted to fire.
He has
They
attempted
are
to fire.
fighting it in
They're
court.
fighting it back. They're fighting back. So that's the whole thing. Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Alvaro Bedoya um, are basically fighting back against this firing. The FTC
Won't let
historically, I
me
believe
be
the way it's made up,
lonely.
right? It's an agency made up of three people of the president's party and then two people from the opposing party. It's supposed to be constructed in a way so that there is at least some sort of balance, even if the main party will have a majority. And both of these folks, both Rebecca Kelly Slaughter and Elvira Bedoya, have released statements about it too. I'm going to read Slaughter's statement here. The law protects the independence of the commission because the law serves the American people, not corporate power. The reason that the FTC can be so effective for the American people is because its independence and because its commissioners serve across political parties and ideologies. Removing opposition voices may not change what the Trump majority can do, but does change whether they will have accountability when they do it. So this is an ongoing story. certainly not good because the FTC is, that is the arm of the government that's doing things to basically protect consumer rights and deal with things like consumer products. Um, not, I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on this? Because like it's so like blatantly illegal, so blatantly wrong, and it's not going to lead to great things. But yeah, go ahead, Ben.
I have thoughts about this to start.
Hmm.
It's so crazy that when this news came out, people online, especially any reporter with a legal background, was saying that they were trying to relitigate Humphrey's Executor, which is
Hmm.
a Supreme Court case from the 1930s, um, about, again, whether or not a president can fire a
Hmm.
like FTC employee. Um, the crazy thing about it is that the first time they did this, it was FDR trying to fire an FTC employee because they were insufficiently like gung ho on the New Deal. And now they're trying to do it again because it seems like they're trying to do the exact opposite. It's like the mirror
We
image.
need to break everything that was built over the last 100 years. That's the ticket. Also worth pointing out, these two folks were Lena Khan's, basically her deputies. Like they were working alongside her lieutenants. We talked a lot about like what Lena Khan did and how she was fighting against the state of monopolies, how she was fighting against Amazon. The FTC was doing a lot of interesting work during the Biden administration, and it's all up in smoke, like so many things. We are also sitting and waiting to see what's going to happen to the Department of Education, and yeah, not great stuff. We are going to follow this story, and we're going to be following all this stuff as it relates to the technology world and also consumer rights and all those things. But it's worth making you guys aware, like it is a dangerous thing. It's illegal, but it's also dangerous, and it's also signaling what the Trump administration tends to do by trying to fire these two FTC commissioners. All right. Next story, Amazon. not not too many like happy stories this week. We're gonna end on one that's maybe a little fun, but there is also the story that broke over the weekend that Amazon's getting rid of the option for Echo devices to process Alexa's voice requests locally. That means they're all going to be going to the cloud soon. I actually forgot that they announced this thing. I guess they announced it over privacy concerns, right? But it seems like they want everything back in the cloud because they need voice data to train Alexa Plus and their AI stuff. Thoughts, folks?
I so again, please mute your
Hmm.
speakers. But I also saw recently, which by the way, it's March already, right? And the February Amazon
Hmm.
event did say that this early previews of these more intelligent assistant are going to be available this month. So I was able to sign up through the Amazon app and I did. Still haven't tried it out for myself yet, which is
Hmm.
my huge caveat here, right? Like this thing ostensibly ready for early previews, still not something that you can actually try out for yourself, at least not to my knowledge. So I am not surprised if this was because, like you said, Devendra, they
Hmm.
need more data to train this LLM based assistant because it's not reacting the way it's supposed to or responding in a lot of edge use cases the way it's supposed to. I mean, Sam, you and I were there at the Amazon event. The demos they gave were so canned, so rehearsed, and it seemed like only in 5 specific situations would the
Hmm.
assistant respond the way they want it to, right? And then what if you were asking not about your Ring camera feed and Huskies? What if you were asking about actual important stuff like was there someone breaking into my house at midnight or did a raccoon, I guess a raccoon's identifiable, but like that's where I'm at, right? Like I guess I wouldn't be surprised even though I prefer on device and local processing, right? I
And
don't
we
know if it makes a difference if you don't use the smarter Alexa at all. Yeah.
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
all these things are making me think I should just turn off my Alexa devices. Go ahead, Sam. Yeah.
Oh, it's the thing that's really confusing is that if you look at like the kind of trends for AI stuff in general, more and more companies, Google, Apple,
Hmm.
etc.,
Mm.
are trying to move more stuff on device because they know that not only do people feel better about, hey, my privacy, my data is staying on the thing that I can actually hold in my hand, but it's also just you get better responses when you don't have to, wait for us to ping the cloud every time you want to do something. So it seems really weird that kind of Amazon is kind of bucking or zagging in terms of just like doing
Well,
less on device than its
Hmm.
competitors. That just seems like a weird about face.
I will say that we were just saying that Amazon event did not have any hardware either, right? I wonder
Mhm.
if it's because the existing hardware cannot
It's
handle
it's old
the
hardware.
LLM
Mm,
processing. Right, it's
yeah,
so
I think
old.
that's probably a big thing. Like you won't be able to do on-device LLM processing. Like
Right.
all the Apple stuff, you need a lot of RAM. You
And
know,
in fairness,
yeah.
there is a benefit to that because all of the existing Alexa devices, all the old Echoes, even back like the original Echo, will get support for Alexa Plus at
Right,
some point. So
Mhm.
by
right.
leveraging that cloud model, they don't have to rely on like the old chips from 10 years ago in the
You
original
are
Echo.
still using older Wi-Fi standards depending on
Yeah,
how
you're
far
still
back
using
you
older
go.
Wi-Fi
Yeah.
standards and a lot maybe the mic, they didn't far field
Mhm,
mics have come a long way in the last,
Mhm.
mhm.
5-10 years. But still, so there is some benefit to doing the like total cloud-based server approach. It just seems a bit weird, especially since they hired Panos Panay from Microsoft, and dude knows about hardware. Like, it seems like he should be able to figure out some way to kind of bridge that gap in terms of like, hey, for our older devices that don't have great chips, maybe they'll use the server model, and for upcoming future devices that have more
I think
recent silicon,
yeah.
then maybe they have that kind of two-pronged approach. But so it seems weird to kind of have this kind of slightly ham-fisted strategy to AI and server processing.
I think they just don't wanna say it 'cause what you're right, Sam. Like, what's most likely gonna happen is newer devices are gonna have more hardware in there
Mhm.
that can do a lot of this stuff on board, and maybe that could be a selling point. Like,
And
Mhm.
faster
"Hey,
maybe, yeah.
you've
So they're
had your
gonna sell
Echo."
privacy back to us.
Sell privacy back to you. You've had your Echo for
oh
5 years
cool, that's
plus.
great.
Yeah, it's great. That's what's gonna happen. That's the only way we get privacy is if these companies can make money off of it. But yeah, they
Can
sell
I
you a new one, which has more RAM and everything, and that can be the thing that maybe does it locally. Go ahead.
I was just gonna
Mhm,
say, can I point out that in the chat there's some really good points, right? Like Dpro9
mhm,
is like, I'm going to feed it junk data for fun. And I believe Daniel Schwartz is sorry, not Daniel Schwartz, Kevin says is
mhm,
like, yes, switch on the assistant and just play adult content to it. And Two Simon says this point in the chat as well, like these devices are all quite slow at the moment,
mhm.
even without,
Yeah.
like cloud processing. So it's just all and also by the way, the last thing I wanted to point out from the chat, which is a really good question, Declan is
Mhm,
like, what about the Amazon Kids speakers? Are those also going to the cloud and being used? So it's a
yeah.
lot. It's it seems like a simple story at first glance, but then now that I think deeper into it, it's just like,
There are layers
wow,
to it.
okay.
There are layers to it.
Hmm.
It also makes me think like yeah, I don't really want to be a part of the whole Alexa Plus thing. I actually and I'm less inclined to like Amazon at this point. So what are your choices, right? You go
Yeah.
to Google's
Hmm.
platform, you go to Siri, I guess, in the HomePod platform. I wish there was just like speaker hardware out there and you could roll your own like little LLM, your own little like
Hmm.
thing that you talk to, and that is just on your device. And I think that may be where we're probably headed to, like looking at how Blue Sky was created, looking at how people are thinking of hardware now. I have a framework laptop right here. And the fact that they are able to sell those things and give us a completely different way of like buying and thinking of hardware. I would love to see more of that because
Hmm.
having a voice assistant is great. Having a speaker you could talk to is great. It's just we can't trust these companies. So I do wonder what the
Hmm.
hackers and the techies are going to do about this stuff. Talking about major changes, by the way, BYD announced something pretty interesting over the last week. I saw a lot of people in the EV world really buzzing about this. They announced a Super E platform in China with peak charging speeds of 1,000 kilowatts. That's double the 500 kilowatts offered by Tesla superchargers. That means you could charge a car for 249 miles in 5 minutes. That's pretty good. That's actually pretty good. That's very close to pumping gas. Still not nearly as much. But Sam, have you seen this? What do you think about this news? Because you're thinking about EVs as well now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really great, positive change. Obviously, it's gonna, we have to see how long it's gonna take for that to trickle down to actual consumer cars. And obviously, the other thing you got to think about is infrastructure, right? Because even if you have a car that can charge that fast, you need to be able to have the chargers in available places, so that people can actually access those capabilities. And so, obviously, the
Mhm,
rollout, the tech sounds great. The rollout kind of remains to be seen. But like you said, it really does eliminate that kind of last thing about range anxiety is that you're in an emergency, you are low on juice, and you just need something to get you to where you're going. You can plug in for 5 minutes. That's just as fast as refilling your gas car, and then you be on your way. And so that is kind of like the last hurdle in terms of like
Yeah, it is.
making long distance trips a little bit more palatable, or in emergency situations where you just need something.
Yeah. How has the range been with you? Because I know you've been driving a Mach-E for a while, Sam.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you drive into Connecticut, you take road trips. How have you managed it with your family?
To me, and everybody, this is kind of what everybody says across the
Hmm.
industry, is that the the biggest, most effective way to combat range anxiety is to give someone an electric vehicle.
Right.
Because
Right.
once they have one and they drive one all the time, they'll really see how much mileage they use. And most people, the stat is like between 60 and 70 miles is how much people drive on a daily basis.
Hmm.
And even for me, that's like way more than what I use. And when you're talking about cars that have 200, 250, 300 miles of range, suddenly, if you are doing 60 miles, you always have so much left in the tank. It's kind of
Yeah.
like how battery anxiety for smartphones used to be a really, really big concern. And now it's just like, it's nice to have more battery life. But when was the last time you were just like, oh, I can't use this device because I have to charge it all the time? Like
I
it's
think.
not really a thing you have to think about anymore.
I think of the early iPhone era, right? That is what you're thinking of. And when people are like, "Oh, I'm going to give up my iPod and my music player and everything and just do it all on my phone," I think
Hmm.
at that point I was like, "Actually, I see how long this phone lasts. I listen to a lot of music, and
But I
actually,
mean,
I
that
was
was almost literally 10 years ago, like
more than 10 years ago."
where you had to
Yeah.
think about like, oh,
Yeah.
how much I'm gonna be using my phone, and like how much is that gonna
Yes.
impact the battery life.
And it's
And
changed. And
yeah, go
since
ahead.
then, it's changed, and I use my phone for everything. I totally agree. Also, people, if you have not lived the life of just like, if you have an electric car and you're able to plug it in at home or in your apartment complex or something, that is where you're doing most of the charging. And most of the time, you're not even thinking about it, right? You're
Oh my
driving at
goodness, yeah.
home. Yeah.
If you have the luxury of having a garage where you can install a charger
Hmm.
in your garage, an EV makes so much sense for you, because you just come home at the end of the day, you plug in at night, and your car will always be like 80% or 100%
Hmm.
ready to go when you need it. And then you never have to go to a gas station again. And like honestly, that's like one of the greatest things about owning an EV, is just not going to gas stations.
It's just such an alien concept, and I think a lot of people like you can't compute it until you live it. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah,
I have a
100%.
question for the
Hmm.
class. So
Yes.
this is dumping a whole lot of power into the battery all at
Hmm.
once, really, really, really fast. How is this fast charging different than the fast charging that made the Galaxy Note 7s
It wasn't
explode?
the fast charging that made those explode. Yeah.
It was the battery and
It
the
Yeah,
was
way
the
the
so
battery.
battery was
Yeah.
yeah,
produced? Okay.
if you go back and look at the Galaxy Note, one of the issues is that they tried to put a battery that was too big in a phone that really had really tight tolerances. And so
Hmm.
what happened was that the phone was kind of squeezing the battery, and that in some cases it would squeeze the contacts on the battery together, and the battery would short out.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's a bad thing because you don't want sparks near your battery, and then that's how we got fires. So this is actually sort of a different kind of issue where they have to pump a ton of energy into a battery. And the challenges for that is like you got to make sure the battery is cooled, and then you're not
Hmm.
kind of really stressing out the battery. And so that's another consideration you have to think is like, putting that much energy into a battery that quickly, does that have impacts on battery longevity in terms of just like, does your decrease the range over time? And so that's one of the things that, kind of it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But, so different challenges than, what happened to the Galaxy Note 7. But, you know, it's nice to see that, hey, at least the tech is evolving a little bit.
It's cool to see the evolution. Ben, I don't know if you've seen a Tesla supercharger in action or like any of the fast charging things. There's a
I've
lot of
seen them
cooling.
at red stop,
Yeah.
at rest
But
stops,
like
but not in action.
running at full speed, there's a lot of cooling. Like there's a lot of cooling there, like liquid cooling, I believe too. Let's
Oh,
like
really?
doing a lot of that
I didn't
too.
know about that.
There is cooling. So there is a lot of heat and a lot of energy going through, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how they're dealing with it.
And a lot of
Mhm.
EV manufacturers, and this used to be a lot more rare in EVs, but it's becoming pretty much an industry standard where new EVs will have a heat pump on them, both
Mhm.
to precondition the battery for faster charging, but also to help remove heat from the battery in cases like this, where you're charging and it's generating a lot of
Yeah.
heat for the battery. And so just heat pump technology in general has come a long way relatively quickly. And so that's actually, really nice to see that, like, partly because the technology is advancing, but also, complementary components are also helping kind of make this a little bit more
Mhm.
achievable.
We're bringing up words that will also scare potential EV buyers, like preconditioning. Like, yeah, if you live in a cold climate, it's actually your battery has to warm up a little so it can actually take that charge well. And if you don't do that, then you have to wait a little longer in the thing. I want to quickly point out level 1 charging, which is literally just sticking your thing into an AC outlet. Um, for most people, given the range people drive typically, it's not even anywhere near like 60. Sam, I think it was like under 50. I think it was more like 30 to 40.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
even for like the most like
Yes.
adventurous people. Yeah, it's like you're
It's
well
really
within that
low.
number.
So when I don't have an EV charger, but I do have when I've tested these things, I plug it into level 1, and in 8 to 10 hours, I get like maybe 30 miles in
Mhm.
it, but that actually covers the amount I'm driving most of the time during the day and what I need for testing. So it's not ideal, but if you really don't drive that much too, like you could also have an EV without an EV charger
Yeah,
as long as you have
and for a
somewhere
lot of people
local.
at home, the sweet spot is sort of level 2 charging because
Mhm.
all you need for that is like your 240-volt outlet that you usually plug into like a dryer or like a an
Yeah.
electric stove. And so a lot of people have that or at least have the ability to put one of those in their garage for not a ton of money. I've seen installations well under $1,000 for installing, an EVSE into your garage.
We need to have a whole episode about this. Like, just say, hey, this is you want to buy an EV. What's the experience going to be like? I honestly had that priced out for me, Sam, and it was like well over $1,000. So it depends
Mm,
on your power. It depends on your
yeah.
electrical panel
Every
and all
every
that
house is
stuff.
different. If you have an old
Yeah.
house, that can be very challenging, but yeah.
hmm Other news: we saw that Pebble founder Eric Migakovsky, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He introduced 2 new e-paper smartwatches. There was news that he was going to be bringing Pebble back essentially in some form. Are you guys
Right.
excited about this at all? Like they
I
look
gotta tell
like
you,
Pebbles. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I've been waiting all morning to talk about this.
Okay.
I am kicking myself. I saw Eric
hmm
again, Eric M. I have hard
hmm
time pronouncing the last name. Um, at CS, and could tell he was taking meetings and was like, something
hmm
is up, and then did not have the brain capacity to follow up. I mean, we connected. I have like,
Wow.
I know how to
Wow.
get in touch with Eric,
hmm
but
hmm
like it's just I'm like, "Oh, I should have seen this coming. I should have been on top of it." Look, listen, we
Yeah.
covered it, and I will go over these 2 devices for you, right? Like, Eric, the founder of Pebble, brought back these 2, like, what looks like e-paper,
hmm
smart watches. One of them is the Core 2 Duo. It looks basically like the Pebble 2,
Wait, it's
however,
called a
with
Core 2 Duo?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Core 2
That's
Duo.
I
my
love
biggest thing.
he
Is like
loves
how.
Intel.
Yeah, how is
Wow.
Intel gonna
Yes,
let this slide? There's no way.
That's
don't
that
get me
he can't
started.
sell
I
that.
don't know. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay. We set the licensing and the like potential trademark issues aside, okay?
hmm hmm
And I suspect that's why you can't just call it a Pebble too. Anyway,
Yeah,
modern
yeah.
chips and quote new tricks, right? It has a black and white 1.26-inch e-paper display, a microphone, a polycarbonate body, and then a 30-day battery life. It will track sleep and steps as well as carries a barometer and compass. That is the Core 2 Duo, which will start at 149, available in black and white. It's shipping in July supposedly. And then there's the Core Time 2, which less of an issue, I guess, with Intel. And this is what Eric has apparently called his dream watch. It is the Pebble Time Evolution, basically. Seems like if you all remember that one.
Uh-huh.
This one is a 1.5 inch, and these are both rectangular screens, by the way. A 64 color 1.5 inch e paper display, a metal body, so not polycarbonate like the Duo 2, a flat glass lens, and a battery that also lasts about 30 days. It will have a touch screen, heart rate monitor, microphone and speaker, IPX8 water resistance, and then, pre-existing Pebble OS apps, which
Mm.
like, okay, don't know what's gonna,
How?
okay,
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah, I'm like, I guess they were open source ish, but
Mhm.
didn't Fitbit buy a lot of
So,
Pebble
so
engineering
I
people? And
believe that Eric has been talking to Google, and Google agreed to open source a lot of the old Pebble software.
Right.
And so
right.
that's part of the big thing of like how they can, bring
Mm.
back some of the heritage and legacy of the original watches.
The Core Time 2, which I was just talking about, this one is available in black, white, and a potential third color, to be announced in the future, and it will start at 225. So yeah, Pebble S is open source, and according to our article, anyway, quote, our article says this both watches are fully hackable. I don't know. how fully hackable we're talking. I will ask Lawrence who wrote the article what he means. But I mean, it is open source, means you could probably like play around with the code yourself, and it therefore allows for the potential introduction of custom firmware. I like the idea where I'm just like, look, I used to be a tinkerer. I love code. I do not have the time to play around. I will try. But like it's so exciting for me, right? Like we've seen a lot of companies recently capitalize on nostalgia. Um and I guess this is a very specific kind of nostalgia because you have to be such a serious geek to know Pebble and feel that love for Pebble the
Plus,
way
plus
some of us
the
do.
original founder is back, so there's a little
And
bit
so
of that
yeah,
continuity
exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not your straight cash grab. It's like someone that you probably can trust with this product because of the heritage. And yeah, I mean, I am really intrigued by the promise of the activity tracking in addition to the looks of it. I want a round one because I remember my favorite was my round Pebble time. Oh, it was so gorgeous. So I'm waiting. I was already about to throw money at this and be like, I'm getting that Pebble Core Duo 2 one, not Pebble. The Core Duo 2 150, I will get it, but I will wait for the time. It's just a round one. Anyway, Sam.
I was just gonna say that, like, on paper, this looks like it would fit me really well. I'm just not in love with the design because it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I want, and
exactly.
like you said, I just prefer a round watch face, and so I
Mhm.
kind of want them to make that version of it. Because for for most purposes, all I really want my smartwatch to do is do notifications, do some basic health and fitness stuff, and then
Mhm.
tell the time and do calendar things. And it's like
Yeah. So,
looks like this can do all of that.
yeah.
So
And
and
look,
it's cheaper than your traditional smartwatch.
right, it's by a lot too. It's a fraction. Well, it's about the same price as the Watch SE. The Apple Watch SE
Right.
is 250 thereabouts. So this
And this is
225 one, the time
225,
2 might
right.
be a bit, quite close. But I will say 30-day battery life is a huge, draw.
Yes.
The drawback that I will point out is that like as someone who reviews a lot of Apple Watches and Pixel Watches, I'm already very used to screens being like the fast refresh rate that we see. Well,
Mhm.
fast meaning like 60 hertz ish, and I'm already so used to seeing like when I'm during a workout, I can see my heart rate, I can see the countdown timer, the seconds are just jumping by. I don't know that these displays can refresh that quickly. I don't know that I need it, right? Like I still don't know, right? Will I want the trade-off of better battery for a like less fast refreshing screen? I don't know. But look, I'm here to nerd out about gadgets, and this
That's
is
why we're
like
all here.
right there.
Yeah.
Yes, this is right in my aorta. Like this thing, you just put the e-ink in my aorta. E-ink,
Aorta.
Yeah.
speaker.
Okay.
Aorta
Aorta.
in your
Aorta.
veins. You want to
Yeah,
stick things
give
in
me
your heart.
one.
That's bad. You want to do that. I'm looking at our pictures of the old the Pebble Time, and I forgot like that had a
Yeah.
really cute form factor. Like the edges were kind of rounded, and these like
Mm.
have longer square, like more rectangular screens and square edges. And I'm like, it doesn't look as good. But I
This is,
could I
this is
could
almost
see
like
having it.
Casio meets
Did you
Yeah.
Pebble in a way.
did you did you ever see the Pebble Time round?
I have
Can
not
I
seen the
show you
Pebble Time
this?
round, but
I'm
I'm
gonna
looking at
show
like
you.
just the plain Pebble Time like had a really nice curves, basically a nice rounded
This was
edges.
my
Looks like a Mac
review of the
device,
Pebble
basically.
Time round.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but it's like one of the prettiest things. It's
Yeah,
from
yeah, no, yeah.
2015.
That's what I want.
hmm
Yeah.
Make the bezels
Oh, it's so
smaller
pretty.
and put
Yeah,
that
I
color
agree.
e-ink screen on there, and then that's right on my alley.
Eric, if you're
100%.
listening.
Yeah,
Well, he's
second
like,
generation.
first
Let's make
say
it
my
happen.
last name correctly, and then I will listen to you. Okay.
I
Oh, I
I
don't.
well, yeah, yeah, I will I
I
will
don't-
I will text.
If people buy these, maybe we will see around one company. I could see like having one alongside what you typically use, maybe an Apple Watch or something. But it's cool to see not Apple, not Samsung, not Google releasing something that could be useful as a smartwatch. So that's cool. They look good. I don't know,
Markel in
readers.
our chat asks a very good question, and I'll end this
hmm
section with it is how much AI will be in these new Pebble watches? And hopefully none. That's all.
Hopefully none. There's no AI in e-paper yet, and we won't see e-ink for reasons.
Well, there is AI and e-ink through the Kindle Scribe, just FYI.
That's true. Oh god, Amazon has to ruin everything. Last, sorry, last story. Lego Pokemon. Lego Pokemon are coming
You
in
were
2026.
excited for that,
Yeah,
audibly.
audibly. I don't know. I feel like Ben, you're the producer. You should keep your composure so we could keep the segment going.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
You
Let's
failed.
let's
Failed roll.
restart.
Failed roll.
Let's
Wow.
restart.
Lego Pokemon are coming in 2026. That's our last story, and that's fun. That's just fun news. I want to
Mm-hmm.
put Lego Pikachu. Come on.
Will it
That's
be
it. That's
cute
all
though?
we
Do you
know.
think? I haven't seen any pictures. I am going into this completely cold.
I don't think they've revealed them yet. All we see is
Oh,
like a
okay.
tail. We see a Pikachu tail, which is a series of
Ooh.
Lego bricks, and I think it's a smart
Okay.
move because yeah, kids love Pokemon, everything. Kids still love Lego. Still a pretty
Mm,
good brand. Like there, and Lego has been very smart to like produce things for every single age range. So there's like
Hmm.
Lego
mhm.
Duplo for the really young kids. There's stuff for like intermediate levels, and then there's like it rises to adult
Yeah.
levels. My kids going into the Lego store, that's like one of the most fun things they can do because it's like a little mini amusement park of just really cool stuff, but also really expensive Lego kits. So Lego is
Mm.
killing it. Lego plus Pokemon is like, why did it take them so long to do this? This is like a no-brainer move, especially in like the Minecraft era. This should have been done a long time ago. Thoughts, guys?
I was gonna
Everything
say,
Lego is
Mhm.
doing is so smart.
Yeah.
It's not just staying in like, "Oh, we just make building sets." Like, they're like, "Yeah, let's do video games. Sure. Let's do, like, Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Star Wars." Um, it and it works kind of bidirectionally, like, you play the Lego game, and it reminds you to, actually build Legos, and then you play with Legos, and you're like, "Oh, I think I might wanna play that new Lego game." It's a very nice feedback loop.
It
yeah.
could be.
I was
Yeah.
also gonna say, I'm assuming that these are gonna be like full size or like close to life size Lego
Mhm.
Pokemon because they actually already do sell some small Lego Pokeballs that have
Mhm.
like a like a 1 inch tall Squirtle. I bought one for my kid the other day, so that's interesting.
Not a
So like,
choking hazard, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, well, just watch them carefully.
Well, yeah,
There's
you live with it.
Parents,
Yeah.
watch your kids. You know
Watch
this.
your kids. There's also a Lego Game Boy coming. This was announced way back in January that you could
Hmm.
build a classic Game Boy with Lego. So hey, fun times.
Yeah, but I was
That
gonna say, my
Mhm.
wife bought me some Lego roses for Valentine's Day recently, and it was
Oh,
like that's like a
Cute.
really awesome gift, and it was like one of the best Valentine gifts I've ever gotten. So it's like
Mhm.
Lego seems to be
I'm
hitting it
stealing that
on
idea.
yeah hitting it across the board on just like coming up with good ideas for new sets.
It depends on the person because those are nice kits, but it's also like to some people, it's like, oh, you got me work as a gift. Like I have to build
Yeah.
this thing.
No, that's me with plants. Anytime people
Yeah.
buy me actual plants, I'm like, you bought me a
Uh-huh.
responsibility.
Wow. Yeah, that really does say more about you than the gift for sure. Folks, I like the Lego. I think Legos are good. The kids love Lego. The kids love Pokemon. It's a whole thing. So we're looking forward to seeing what these are going to be, and that's something fun to make us think about. To ignore other news happening in the world. Let's move on to we got listener mail. Got listener mail from
Yay!
Kevin Says, who's in the chat right now. He's asking, I'm looking at the LG C5 and the matching 2025 Samsung OLED TV. Which one is best, or are they both kind of the same, and are the UI very different? Kind of leaning towards the LG, as he has an LG washing machine and tumble dryer. Yeah, and thanks for the help, as this was informed their upcoming purchase. I do have to say, I kind of have ended up with like a bunch of LG things all at once. I didn't initially plan this, but I have the LG washer dryer, and we just remodeled our kitchen, so we have like the LG fridge that you can knock on the front and you see what's in the fridge, and my kids love it
Hmm.
because all their snacks are there. And they're all in a single app, and the app is like, hey, your fridge filter is something's wrong. You got to replace that right now, or your washing machine has an issue. So it's actually really useful to have an app for a bunch of different devices that don't normally need apps. So I'll point that out. I know people have been liking the Samsung OLED TVs, and in many cases they have been getting better reviews than LG's models. But I've been covering these things for so long, and I think at the very least, like I am loyal to LG for always kind of sticking with high quality panels. Like they're always generally doing good work. They have done this so much longer than Samsung and other companies. There are good arguments that Sony's image processing is better. I think people like some features in the Samsung OLED TVs, and also their prices can go down. But also
Right.
LG has been lowering prices as well. So I feel like keep an eye out for sales. The LG C5 would be a good bet. But if you see a good deal on the Samsung OLED, they're good. It's OLED. It's modern OLED. It's still going to look good no matter which one you choose. Sam, any thoughts, or Sherlyn?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Mhm.
that like that's a great point you make about having like one app to like monitor a bunch of like big ticket
Mhm.
appliances because that's kind of where I'm at in my life is like I don't want another app that only manages one
Yes.
single thing and I don't
Yes.
want to go through the sign up and process. So that's definitely something that to think about. Also considers like do you have existing sound bars that you might want
Yep.
to pair with this because a lot of times an LG sound bar is just going to work naturally. It might have some special features that it can use when paired with an LG TV versus a Samsung. Otherwise, I think the picture quality is very, very close.
Hmm.
Um, One important thing to mention is that Sony has not announced its new 2025 TVs yet. That we're expecting that to happen sometime this spring, but no details just yet. So maybe wait until see that, and you have like a good look at like here's the three big players: LG, Samsung, Sony, and maybe you can better cross shop about that.
Yeah.
But I think it really comes with like you already say you have LG washer and dryer. I think it probably would fit in your life a little bit better. And on that perspective, I would kind of agree that like leaning LG probably makes the most sense.
Their hardware is also tends to be more reliable from what I've seen from Consumer Reports stuff too. So like more
Yeah.
reliable than Samsung's appliances. Um, don't know about versus Sony TVs. That's a good question.
The
I
one small
Good.
thing to think about, I think
Mhm.
Samsung's smart TV features are a little bit wider in terms of like
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
more support for kind of like game streaming services natively in the TV. So if that's something that you think might interest you, just
Mhm,
maybe see if that's something you would actually use in practice. Aside from that, I think panel versus panel, they're actually very
mhm. From what I've seen, Samsung software can be a little overbearing because like it feels like a computer. It feels like this is a whole thing happening here, and it's not as nimble as LG stuff. So there's
people
that.
have a very love or hate approach to
Yes.
the LG Magic remote with the
Yep.
physical waving around. But you should be able to get a sense of that if you just go to your local Best Buy and
Yeah.
give it a shot.
I turned that off. I use the manual clicking thing.
Me
Also
too.
worth pointing out, be flexible because there's some crazy good deals out there, especially at the time of the year. Like 2 years ago, I was able to get my dad like a 77-inch LG, like not a top. It was an A series model, but he doesn't need 120 hertz. He needs OLED at 60 hertz, and it's still an incredible looking and large screen. You're gonna find old models for sale. I like to keep an eye on Slick deals. We occasionally like pump out TV deals at Engadget as well, but keep an eye out. I would be iffy about refurbished units. I'd be iffy about reused or floor models because OLED panels are so finicky. But there are some great deals out there. Like I have definitely seen the LG, really good LGs for 65 inches below $1,500. I've seen 77 inches hit like 1,500. So keep an eye out. The deals are out there. I if you have if you have a 65-inch TV right now, by the way, look at your room. How much space do you really have? Because if you're upgrading your TV, you could probably afford a 77-inch TV. And I've actually talked several people into getting a much bigger TV because their old TVs had like the huge bezels and they had like a
Yep.
lot of junk around them. So the OLEDs have no bezel. They have like they're super thin. There's like no extraneous real like coverage, but it also means you could fit a much nicer screen in a space that you previously, put something smaller unless you have like one of those like closed in
Yeah.
entertainment centers.
I always
Yeah.
tell people get the biggest TV you can
Yes.
fit in your space because
Yes.
in 2 or 3 years when they come out with even larger sizes, you'll be like, oh man, I could have gone bigger.
You could and you will regret that. Like, this is a big purchase, so if it's the difference between spending a couple $100 and you have the space for it, like, a 77-inch TV looks good as long as you're not sitting right up on it. I
Mhm.
think for most living rooms, 65 inches is, like, at least the baseline of what you wanna start with. Charlene, thoughts? It seems like you're thinking about TVs.
No, I was just laughing because Mark Dell in the chat said that he's waiting for a 65-inch foldable TV. So good for you.
I mean, any TV is a foldable if you try hard enough.
Wait,
Once,
there there
once,
there
once,
was
well,
there
once.
there was a 65-inch foldable TV. It was the
Yes.
LG rollable that cost
It
$20,000.
was a rollable. Yes, it did technically
Rollable.
fold. Nothing happened with that. Anyway, Kevin, I hope that helped. And also, yeah, folks, drop us more questions, more emails
Yes.
at podcast@engadget.com. Real quick, around Engadget, Chris Holt has reviewed Assassin's Creed Shadows for us. He says it's an ambitious and captivating world that's stuck in the past. I totally feel that. I've also played an hour of this game at this point. I will add to this review. Yes, all that, and he's played a lot of it. Also, cool as hell. Cool as goddamn hell. Like, if you like Assassin's
Mm.
Creed games and you've been waiting for, just get to Japan, Assassin's Creed, get to Japan. I want to use katanas to cut off people's heads. They have done it, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh.
It is both balancing kind of the stealthy stuff. It feels like actually a mixture of Tenchu and maybe a mixture of Onimusha at the same time too, because there are two protagonists, and it co-stars Yasuke, and I think all that like he is a big beefier warrior. He has like big swords. He like barrels into people. And I think Noe is the other protagonist, and she is like nimble and smaller, and she's like more of like traditional ninja type of person. And I like the gameplay differences. It's great. So I don't know, folks, check it out. Sam, are you planning to? You're nodding.
No, I just heard a lot of good things about it. Almost like it's a return to form for like the Assassin's Creed franchise
Hmm.
in terms of like you get the ninja stuff that you really really want, and I think it's like if you nail that, and everything else will kind of fall into place.
Yeah. I also really liked Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is the really small one they put out, I think last year. Their sense of place, the ability to create like a virtual world, I think is still really impressive as long as you can deal with like the open world mess of like those Ubisoft games. Sam, you also had a really good rant. It's about damn time Microsoft made an Xbox gaming handheld. What do you want to reiterate or that or
Yeah, I
encapsulate
mean,
that argument? Hmm.
so this is kind of following up on the rumor that like long last, it seems like
Hmm.
Microsoft might put out some sort of Xbox gaming held, even though they might tap someone else to make it. But it's just like I- it feels like the writing has been on the wall ever since the Switch came out, which was what 2017, and so it's like, or maybe even earlier that I can't remember, but
Hmm.
it's just like Microsoft, this has been like low hanging fruit on your on your tree, and with the explosion of gaming handhelds, we've seen Asus already has two out, Lenovo
Hmm.
has made two, and all the other companies, Acer is getting into the mix. I saw one back at CES, and it's just like Microsoft, you have such a great opportunity to come in, put your
Yeah.
stamp on a
Yeah.
gaming handheld, help expand the Xbox portfolio. Phil Spencer's been out there saying for years that he doesn't consider the Xbox to be a single device or a single console. It's a platform, as we've seen with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and game streaming, buy anywhere stuff or play anywhere stuff like that. So it's like not only can you put all of this on a single machine, make it affordable, make it portable, but you can finally, hopefully, fix the big issue that everybody has with Windows-based gaming handhelds, and
Hmm.
that the UI is super clunky because you're often switching between, maybe the handheld has a built-in touchpad, or you have to do the touch screen to hit certain things. Make a dedicated like UI or a gaming UI for Windows and let this thing run it and be a showcase of, hey, there are things that besides Valve OS that can be a really nice dedicated platform
Hmm.
for portable PC gaming. And here's your opportunity. I hope they nail it because it sucks to have like don't get me wrong, the Steam Deck is awesome and I own one, but it's like yeah, I think there's a lot of people who there are still a lot of advantages to having a Windows-based PC gaming system just for the compatibility.
Yep.
So it's hopefully we have more choices in the marketplace. And apparently this thing could come out as early as the end of this year, which sounds kind of crazy, but hey, make it happen.
I hope it does. I hope it like compared to nobody needs a faster Xbox Series X, right? Like given how bad their console market is right now, if anything, Microsoft seeing the success of the Steam Deck, honestly seeing the success of the Nintendo Switch, should have been like thinking about this for a while. But
Hmm.
we know they're a slow moving company. It takes them a while to like. Microsoft is such a big ship, like changing directions, doing anything. Even Xbox, like the Xbox division is so big compared to most other hardware companies, it's hard for them to change up, but it totally makes sense. Don't play the same game, right? That's always been Nintendo's secret. Don't play the traditional console game. That's something they've been following for a while. Go for a handheld that is cheaper and accessible and supports Game Pass and put that in everybody's hands. And the thing we talked about last week, if you're going to make a new box, make a box. Make it a Windows box. Like just make it a box that is fully open and lets people do what they need to do, or at least don't lock it down like an Xbox console. Lock it down like a Windows PC. How about that?
Hmm.
Because Microsoft knows how to do that. Don't be afraid if people want to put Steam games on that Windows box because it's still, at the end of the day, an Xbox under their TV and they may want to subscribe to Game Pass. That's another reason for them to subscribe to Game Pass. There's a lot of stuff I wish Microsoft were doing, especially seeing how badly the Xbox Series X has done. The S has done a little better because it's cheaper, but man, I kind of think about like all the strategy stuff like that could be really interesting right now for Xbox. We'll keep an eye out. We're interested in like this space. Let us know what you folks think. Is Microsoft done with the console market? Our editor in chief had written an editorial I think a year or two ago about that. Like Microsoft should just get out of consoles. I always thought that was not quite the thing. Like I think they should rethink consoles,
Hmm.
handheld plus a better, like basically a PC box under your
Yeah.
TV could be a way to do it. So
I mean, the
podcast and
alternative
gadgets.
the alternative is that Microsoft becomes Sega, right? And Sega has actually enjoyed a
Sure.
decent run as like being like a publisher only, but I think it's just nice to have a little bit more competition among gaming hardware. So I
Mhm.
hope that Xbox or Microsoft doesn't give up on it entirely.
For sure, for sure. All right. So yeah, let us know what you think of that, folks. And working on like, hey, we're gonna blast through this. Sam, you want to mention anything quickly that you're working on? I know you're testing the new Rivian and the Asus Z Flow 13. Quick thoughts on
Mhm.
those?
No, just got a new EV to check out. This is the Gen 2 of Rivian stuff, so it has like support for their new like hands-free driving system. And then the Asus Z Flow 13 was that kind of really funky gaming tablet we saw back at CS, is the second gen version of this. So, keep an eye out for those reviews. No concrete timeline yet, but I'm working on them in the background.
Cool. And we'll quickly run down our pop culture picks. I just want to say, hey, catch up on Severance. Severance season 2 is good. It's great, and I have seen the finale. I can't say anything about it, but I have seen it, and I'm working on a review like of the season for us right now. It's worth catching up on. I think this has been an incredible season of television. Anything else you guys want to mention, Sam, Sherlyn?
I mean, I know Sam has something, so I'll let him go first.
Okay.
I also have stuff.
I'm gonna just shout out Solo Leveling 2. The second season almost wrapped up, and it's just like I appreciate this show because the show, the character is obviously like a Mary Sue or whatever you want to call it, where it's like infinitely powerful, never really faces a lot of stress, but they still find a way to make it interesting. And I'm also getting some like interesting weird vibes of like Hunter x Hunter vibes, because the main character or the main antagonist right now is a bunch of like crazy powered ants. So kind of but Hunter x Hunter was one of my favorite animes of all time, so it's interesting to see those kind of parallels. That said, I've also been watching Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and I just want to say I do not get this show.
Really?
Everyone I talk to says show is wonderful and heartwarming, and I'm like, I can't stand it.
It is for kids. It is literally a kids show. So I think that's
I know,
the
but I'm
main
like,
thing.
I'm
Yeah.
watching it out of obligation because I have this
Mhm.
weird like association when I like Star Wars. It's like weird to say that people like Star Wars nowadays.
I like Star Wars. Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm on the second to last episode, and I can't like, I just want to finish it so I never have to think about it again. I do not understand why people think this is a good show.
That's harsh, Sam. That is harsh. I liked what I've seen so far, and there have been really terrible Star Wars shows so far. But anyway, Sherlyn, anything you wanna bring up?
I just saw Mickey 17 in theaters, like you
Yeah.
suggested. I don't
Mhm.
know how I feel. Like you said exactly, it was
Mhm.
just like not as good as Snowpiercer.
Mhm.
I found Robert Pattinson's character kind of annoying. I think it's just
His
designed to
his
be
accent or
annoying.
whatever
His
he's doing in
accent.
that movie is weird,
Accent's
right?
so confusing.
Mhm.
It's so bad. I don't like
I'm
it,
not.
but
I'm glad I'm not
I
the only one.
yeah, it fits with the character and that it's a bit annoying.
Mhm.
I will say two shout outs in terms of pop culture things. One, um, quite well known but old movie, and you're gonna yell at me, Devindra.
Mhm.
I
I'm ready.
watched Rat Race this past weekend as
Rat
well. That I
Race?
think it's from like 2001 or something. It stars Rowan Atkinson. I think John Cleese is
Are
in
you
it
talking
as
about a Mr.
well.
Bean movie over here? Rat Race? What?
Hell yeah, all the way back to Mr. Bean, the
Okay.
OG YouTuber
Sure.
that we know and love. No, I'm kidding. Um, it's just like your typical like a slapstick comedy type of thing. It's just I was expecting Rowan Atkinson to play a bit different of a character, like
I
more like the
assure you,
roles he's
Sherlyn,
played in.
nobody has talked about this movie in a decade.
I
So
know, that's
congrats
why
on
I'm bringing it
reviving
up.
Rat Race.
I
Wow.
know.
Very
So
Zucker's
yeah,
Rat Race. Yeah.
I don't remember where I saw it, but if you can, it's like it's just a throwback. I remember like when I was super young in Singapore, I saw the like movie
Uh-huh.
theater posters for it. So that's yeah. And then yeah, I also saw a more recent movie. I don't know if you've heard of this one, both of you. It's called Oddity.
Mhm.
It's a I believe an English made film.
Yep.
That's a horror movie that is really creepy, really cool.
Really
I think it's
creepy.
also fairly well reviewed. Have you seen it?
Mhm.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's
It's
good.
creepy. It's
I
creepy.
really
It's
liked it.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
there you go. If
All
you're in
right.
the mood for creepy.
All right. I think you can wrap it, Sherlyn, then.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the episode this week. Everyone, thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Sam online at
At Sam Rutherford on Twitter, but I'm not really posting a lot anymore.
you can
I'm
find
gonna move to Blue Sky very
Move to
shortly.
Blue Sky. Come on.
And
He's joining us
it
soon.
has to happen. I'm just being slow about it.
Mm-hmm.
Devendra, where can people find you online?
I'm at Devendra on Blue Sky and a podcast about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me your favorite moments from Rat Race, I guess, because we're all old together, you can send them to me on Threads or Blue Sky, CHERLYNN.bsky.social. Yeah. Email us your thoughts about the show at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on wherever you're listening to this podcast and subscribe on your favorite podcast catcher.
Thanks, folks. We're out. All right, Charlene, you can
Bye.
drop. I need to run to
Yeah.
the bathroom, but we could chat with the chat for a bit.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
We should absolutely chat with chat, by the way. I just
You gotta
will
go.
say bye
Bye.
before every yeah, I will say bye in 2 minutes, but while you go to the bathroom. Daniel sorry, there's a lot
Did
of
you
chat
see
about
you were
Xbox.
getting comments on your positive comments on your
Y'all,
makeup?
here's the thing. I'm using a Samsung laptop and it's doing some kind I'm sure it's doing some kind of beauty. Like
Oh, it's doing some
filtery.
Facetune.
I'm sure it's doing at least a little bit of that. Like I think I look fine. But there's barely any texture and I know my face has more texture than this. So I appreciate the compliments. I will definitely still be using makeup, don't worry, Danny. But yeah.
Mark, what was
Mo
I saying?
Esquire was saying, by the way,
Oh, go ahead.
the agreeing with Devendra, shift Xbox into its Windows era and open up its functionality. Like I think that's the story you wrote, right, Sam?
Well, yeah, that was more
More or
for
less.
the one this week was about gaming Xbox gaming
Handheld.
handhelds, and Microsoft is finally going to do one. But I wrote a rant like a long time ago about how I really wanted Microsoft to make an Xbox gaming laptop. It was the easiest thing in the world. You just put Windows and you make it green and yellow, and or sorry, you make it green and black and put some fun RGB lighting on it, and it would have been awesome. It would have been like the kind of offshoot for the Surface line, but for gamers, and then you have your Xbox social stuff integrated and Game Pass and then they never did it. I don't understand why, but hey,
Or make it bright green translucent plastic and then say that it's harking back to the original Xbox.
yes, you could have made an Xbox. Think about it. You can make an Xbox gaming laptop look awesome. There are so many things, so many avenues that you could explore with that thing. I don't know why.
I will say bye now. Devendra's back to talk to y'all. So thanks for joining us today. Goodbye. I'll send y'all the audio
Bye.
file. Bye.
Thank you. What's up, chat? I like Mark Dell. Microsoft will surely make a cloud game device called the Play Xbox Portal. Yeah.
Well,
XP.
this was rumored, and I think back in the 2 or 3 years ago, maybe,
Mhm.
they made a prototype
Yeah.
cloud gaming device. There was a photo on Twitter like 3 or
Mhm.
4 years ago of Phil Spencer, and there was one in the background of his
Yes.
photo. And so they definitely explored that. Apparently, obviously never came out, but that's not a crazy thing to say.
I mean, Logitech released one, and it came. It's an Xbox streaming device from Logitech, and nobody cares
Mhm.
because I think you can't rely on it. You can't have something that's just cloud gaming. That was
There was
my
also
issue with
the
the Pro
handheld.
too.
Logitech made a streaming only handheld, and that was weird
Yes,
too.
that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah,
made
yeah.
the streaming only handheld. It has to be like a full system. It has to be something that could do stuff locally, but you stream if you want. Game Pass streaming, sure.
Tom
How are
Rogers says
things?
Surface Box. 2 words that say nothing about
Surface
what
Box.
the machine actually does.
Does not make sense. But I just can't. I keep looking. I have a Mac Mini still over here that I need to return. I'm like, that is a perfect little device that is close to $500 and can actually play games and do some stuff. I'm like, what if that was a Windows box that could play Xbox games? That would actually be pretty good.
Well, and so this reminds me,
Mhm.
just this week at GTC,
Mhm.
Jensen was out there talking about how they're going to have the mini kind of AI supercomputers for the desktop,
Right.
and it's like, what's stopping them from putting them like something closer to like a traditional discrete GPU in there, and then you can have a tiny little gaming desktop that's like super powerful. I don't know. I think that would be cool.
I don't think it even at that point it's like you're not doing GPU work, right? You're doing work that you
Yeah, I
need
mean
that
that's
box for.
true. It's just
Yeah.
like I would love like a tiny gaming desktop that I can take around
You can have
very
it.
easily.
Sam, you can have that right now. You
I
have the will
know.
to have a tiny. You can go buy it from all sorts of places. You could build one, a
I
mini
don't.
ITX one right now.
I don't like building small form factor stuff. It hurts my knuckles.
It does hurt. Build it. I just replaced my PC right here. Every time, every time I do a PC replacement, I shred my knuckles. I shred everything. It's awful. I hate the power connectors. Everything. God.
Yeah, like we talked about this before, but I'm in line for a new desktop upgrade,
Mhm.
and I keep thinking about like, do I get like a small form factor case or like a mid tower? And I'm like, I keep going mid tower just because it's easier to swap stuff in and out.
Yeah, I have a mid. It's like I don't know unless you're going to put other cards in there. I don't know what you do with a mid tower case, other than you want to have space for a 3 slot video card. But even the RTX 5090 is now a 2 slot card,
Yep.
and that fits in a small form factor case. So I think for a lot of people that's fine. Somebody asks, Lucky Dog Podcast asks, can you edit Premiere on a Mac Mini? Yeah, you can. If you get the Mac Mini with the Pro chip, you can actually do some pretty decent work on that.
Especially
Um,
if it's an
Mhm.
M4.
Kevin
Yep.
says was mentioning the new AMD gaming chipset.
Yep.
AMD has been really doing really well to support gaming handhelds to the
Hmm.
point where they have the Z1 Extreme, the
Yep.
Z1 line for dedicated for handheld gaming chips. We're still waiting for the Z2 Extreme to come out. We've had the kind of affordable version that was on the Legion Go S that I reviewed not too long ago. But I definitely agree. It's like it's really nice to see like a really nice dedicated APU for gaming, and then
Hmm.
that kind of the existence of the original Z1 Extreme kind of unlocked the performance sweet spot
Hmm.
that powered the original ROG Ally, the Legion Go, and all those. So
That's what
yeah.
AMD does. AMD creates like really concentrated power for smaller devices. So they're in all the consoles because of that. Nvidia's not in there. Nvidia is in the Switch, which we don't really talk about because they were the only ones that had that small APU at the time.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're referring people I think referring to the Ryzen Max, which is in the RGZ Flow, that tablet that you're testing.
Yes, yeah,
And that
yeah.
that is a pretty interesting chip, even though it's really expensive, right? Like it's
Also,
powerful.
it's
Mhm.
also kind of overkill for
Yeah.
most consoles, just because you can put up to like 120 gigs of like soldered on RAM, which is
Hmm.
like no console needs that much.
Hmm. But direct access to RAM is really great when you have big ass maps. Let me tell you. All right. Anything else we want to shout out?
No, I just heard a lot of letters,
A lot of
and I
letters.
was like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
Go
Good
off.
good comment from OS Squire. If there was a middle ground between the complexity of PC building and the simplicity of console gaming, Microsoft could swoop in and own that space. Yes,
Mm,
that is
it's
kind of
true.
what I am saying because right now you can get a pre-built gaming PC, stick that under your TV, turn on Steam, big picture mode, and that's it. That is a deep,
I
really
think
good
that is
gaming PC.
truly the tweet there, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of people who want to play games that are largely PC only,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of stuff on Steam that, like, console gamers don't know anything about. If Microsoft could own this is a portal to both
Mhm.
Windows and general Steam stuff, that could be a really big market for them.
Mhm. Markdale saying he wants to install his Steam library to RAM. Listen, I got 64 gigabytes of RAM in this desktop now. I'm like, can I make a little RAM disk? Can I put a game in RAM and just run it off RAM? I could. You can do that. So like a Steam PC, Mark is saying. Valve has tried this multiple times, and I think Microsoft has a better shot of doing the box. Well, the Valve took them a while to get the Steam Deck being a thing. But yeah, like a Steam PC. Like the hardware was not there at the time for the Steam PC, but it is there now for good
And
small form
especially because they
factors.
were pushing Linux like way back in the day, and Linux was not ready until
It
the
was
Steam Deck. So
definitely not ready. Yeah.
there's a lot of factors about how Valve was definitely ahead of its time with what they were thinking about, but they couldn't really put all the pieces together until
Yeah.
the Steam Deck.
All right. I'm gonna export this audio. But thank you, folks. It's good to have a good chat with the chat room. It's gonna be a meaty episode. Thank you all for
Yeah,
joining
yeah, this
us.
has been, like, a really good episode, very good focus on gadgets. Yes, we talked about Hell News, but,
Hmm.
didn't get stuck in it. So thanks everybody for watching. You make us smarter, you remember stuff that we forget. OBS is by Devindra, camera switching, hopefully it was decent, because that's by me,
It's pretty good.
and thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, folks. Bye.